Welcome to Arch Marketing Monday. Did you know there are a lot of preventable art marketing mistakes? Well, there are. And today we're going to get into some of those, address some questions about how you can prevent those mistakes or things you could be doing. If you're an artist or somebody who's selling your drawings, your paintings, your photography, your crafts, whatever, this show is about helping you to kind of get to the next level, help you figure out how to market and sell your artwork if that's important to you. If it's not, you don't need to watch this any further. We are going to be offering a few people a chance to come on live today. I'll tell you about that in a second. And let's see if you can stump me. I've been stumped before, so let's see if you stump me today with your tough questions. We're going to address these questions as well that people have sent in case we don't have lives. How do I get more portrait commissions? How do you manage a relationship with your art gallery? What should we stop doing when marketing ourselves? Most of the people watching or listening are not likely to be selling $15,000 paintings. I think artists want to know how to get $500 for a painting and what it takes to start getting $1,500. How do you find your ideal client or audience or collector? How do you deal with burnout, especially social media and marketing? And can you address some mailing list issues, do's and don'ts? All right, well, here we go. I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur Plein Air magazine, and I have been working with artists and galleries and art people in the art world for decades. And I've taught thousands of people, probably tens of thousands of people, to paint. I've reached millions, and most importantly, my superpower is marketing. And I've spent my career marketing and selling products, including art, but not exclusively art, and have helped lots of companies, lots of artists, lots of brands grow substantially. So am I qualified? Probably not. No. Okay. So if you want to come on live with your questions, here's how to do it. Just go to artschool.live/stream and then follow the instructions right there, and we'll get you on live if you want to come on. Nobody likes to be the first one, but you have courage. You want to be the first one. So let's get you in here. In the meantime, I'm going to start with the questions. This one comes from 𝗖𝗍𝗲𝗄𝗃. Okay, how do I get more portrait commissions? I find that trying to hard sell portraits has the opposite effect, and it drives people away. Well, I agree. I think a hard sell is probably not a good idea. I never recommend a hard sell. Hard sell is for car dealers. And quite frankly, I hate going to car dealers. I refuse to do it. I just get my body language is like, stay away from me. Don't try to manipulate me. But they do it anyway. So I've used other companies, I've used private car dealers and things like that to get me the car that I want. And because I don't like the games. I don't think people like the games. Hard sell is not necessary. And there's a big difference between hard sell and soft nudge or subtle nudge. Sometimes most people don't make decisions without a little bit of a nudge. A lot of us, myself included, would never have anything if it weren't being nudged. I get nudged by my family. Hey, we need this, we need that. We could use a little bit of this. We need to eat, So I get nudged in that way. And of course you're going to get nudged by your needs, but also you want to nudge people subtly, because 50% of the people, according to psychology studies, 50% of the people are able to make their own decisions, and 50% of the people need to be nudged. They need just a little help. They need to be able to see clearly why this might be a good thing for them. So what you've got to figure out how to do is to nudge them. Okay, so let's talk about portrait commissions. I think first off, let's say selling training is always a good idea. There's a lot of sales training out there. Some of it is garbage. Some of it's good. I can't tell you which is good and which isn't, but there's going to be great ideas in all of them. And, there's a book that I read when I was 12 years old. It was called Selling Starts When Someone Says No. And most of us, when somebody says no, we go, oh, okay. But, usually no is more of a, well, it's easier to say no than to say maybe, or to give somebody some encouragement. No, usually, not always, no usually means, well, maybe you just haven't convinced me yet. So I think the idea of selling portraits is start by making a list of organizations that have a history of commissioning portraits. Now, if you're a national portrait artist, that's different than being a local portrait artist, and maybe you're both. But I would start locally. I'd start with, well, who in my town, let's say you live in West Palm Beach, Florida. Who in West Palm Beach, Florida is buying and commissioning portraits? Where have you seen portraits? Well, I've seen portraits in City Hall. I've seen portraits at colleges at the main administrative building of colleges. Oftentimes they have portraits of past presidents. They have portraits of regents. Corporations oftentimes have portraits of board members or founders. I was once asked to bid on a commission for a big corporation when someone was retiring. So you want to watch websites, newspapers, public alerts as to what's happening. Like if you see an occasion where a portrait might be warranted, you see Bob Jones is going to retire as the CEO of Bob's Meat Company, then and it's coming up, then contact the family, contact Bob, contact the board members, and say, hey, we should consider honoring Bob with a portrait so that his legacy will be remembered, so he's not forgotten. When you walk into the building, you all see Bob. And so that's the kind of thing that I would do. I have a friend who does that. He goes to big corporations and he sells a lot of portraits when people retire, when executives retire. And sometimes they actually are gift portraits. They give a gift to the person when they're retiring, and they put a little plaque on the portrait, to commemorate your 30 years with our company. We're going to send you this portrait, kind of a thing. So there's a lot of things to do. You don't have to sell people on making portraits if you go to people who are already buying them. And now if you're going to people who haven't bought portraits in the past, then you've got to sell them on that concept. So you need to come up with your ammunition. I will tell you that I've been painted by, I think, 26 or 28 of the best portrait artists in the world, and including Americans and non-Americans. And I've learned a lot about portraiture just by talking to these people. One of them had painted Princess Di and Pavarotti. And for me to be able to point to a portrait and say, hey, this artist painted those two people, it's a great story. And it's great to point out to people when they're visiting. When people visit my home office and I've got 26 portraits hanging in the lobby, they're like, oh, this guy's got a big ego. I'm thinking they are. But, oftentimes I'll walk them through and I said, this one was done by Nelson Shanks and he did this, or this one was done by John Howard Sandon, or this one was done by Daniel Green, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that what you want to do is kind of find a system. Now, John Howard Stanton, who is a really lovely man and a friend, he had a whole book of portraits, and it was probably a big, thick book, if I remember correctly. He would give that book to a prospect. And, that book probably cost him $20, but that prospect, might be paying him $60,000, $80,000 for a portrait. So he invested money up front to make himself look like the one you want to pick. And he had pictures of presidents and pictures of famous people, Billy Graham and, George W. Bush or whomever. And then that says, okay, these are important people. If you don't have those kind of people, at least put together something, a nice brochure, a little book or something, a little hardback book that you can do on one of these photo sites. You can print them one at a time if you need them. You get a prospect, you send them a nice book. The law of reciprocity kicks in, says this is a quality person. Quality graphics are going to matter. Having a system. So I think another artist I know, Nelson Shanks, knew, may he rest in peace. Nelson did a thing where he would invite prospects over to his house for dinner. He'd just have a dinner party with 3 or 4 important people, and they'd talk about art, and he had all this beautiful art around him. And this is how he ended up selling paintings and also selling portraits. And so it's a good way to do it. So anyway, that's one way to do it. Now, again, if you want to come on live, this is how you do it. You go to artschool.live. /stream. Okay, now we do have a regular, Neil McMillan, on. Neil, why don't you come on and ask us your question?
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
You've been on a lot of times.
So I have a question about a product. One of the last questions that I asked you was if Monet had his umbrella that he marketed, or if John Singer Sargent had painting gloves. So if I've been working on a product development, but it's becoming so good that I want to patent it, I was originally going to use the product pretty soon, but I don't want to use it without patenting it. I was wondering if you could advise me on that, or if I was going to do a write-up and explanation of what I have built and submit it to you as something that you might be interested in publishing in your magazine. But I don't want to share it with you until I've patented it. I was wondering if you could advise.
Yeah, because you know that I'm going to be evil, right? You know, some people are. Patrick, I think that first off, congratulations on having the kind of brain that comes up with products. I have one of those, and it's a blessing and a curse, because every day I'm sitting up in bed in the middle of the night going, oh, I've got a new idea, you know, and the problem is, you know, do you chase it? I think you have to ask yourself some really important questions before you go to the extent of patenting something. I came up with an idea years ago, and I couldn't let go of that idea. And I was gonna create a patent for it, and I was gonna, you know, market the product and sell it. And the more and more I thought about it, I realized that, you know, the best I was ever going to do is I was going to make a few $1,000s. And, you know, if you're going to spend money on a patent, it's going to cost you some money. I don't know how much money. I have no idea. You probably want a patent attorney. You can do it yourself. A patent attorney might be able to help you through some of the landmines. There may be things like LegalZoom or something that can help you with that and not spend a lot of money. But what tends to happen is, even if you have a patent, there are big companies out there who steal ideas all the time. So let's just assume that you came out with a product and it was an art product. And let's just assume there was a big company that had art stores everywhere. And they said, this is a good idea. We're going to steal this idea. We're going to create our own product. Well, what are you going to do about it? So you've got a patent. So what? Now you have to file a lawsuit. You have to spend money for a lawsuit. And big companies like that are used to doing this all the time. They're like, we don't care. We'll violate a patent. Until we get shut down, you know, we can sell this product and get 2 or 3 years worth of sales before it ever goes to court. And we're just going to steal the idea and you know, take advantage of the little guy who invented it. Now, not everybody thinks that way. I certainly don't want to think that way. I have had opportunities to do that, but I want to include the people who invented it. You know, if I market the product, I want to include them so that we work together, you know. So you might look at that and say, okay, that's one option. Another option is you could collaborate with somebody. Let's say you wanted to collaborate with me and you wanted me to market it and use the strength of my marketing to sell it. Then you might create a non-disclosure agreement and say, okay, here's a non-disclosure agreement. And then I'll give you the idea. You have to promise that you're not going to use it. You're not going to steal it, blah, blah, blah. And again, you have a risk. Some people you can trust, some people you can't trust, because, you know, there are people who they just love lawsuits. I can't imagine being one of those people. But patents, you know, my dad once told me he had a bunch of patents on stuff that he had invented. And what ended up happening is, you know, if you change something by 20%, the patent is not going to be valid. So all you have to do is, you know, change whatever the product idea by 20%, and then your patent's useless. And so he said, you know, my goal is I stopped patenting things and I just got ahead of it. You know, every time a competitor would come out with something, I'd come out with something better. You know, you just keep looking for the next steps on that. So I'm not sure that's been helpful. What do you think?
Okay.
I guess not. What did you want me to say?
No, that actually helps. If I'm going to send it to you, I'll put a non-disclosure agreement on it, and if I'm going to continue to use it, I don't know. I'll have to work on that one. It's still.
It's
gonna.
I have products that I have created that have been that people have tried to knock off. Some of them successfully, some of them unsuccessfully. I have products that I've created nobody's tried to knock off. I have distribution agreements with some companies to get my products out there. The key to all of this is you want to get scale as quickly as possible. You want to get big as quickly as possible. And that's going to aid you more because that helps you build your war chest.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Neil. All right. Let's see. Do we have anybody else? We have a doorbell, but I'm not hearing the doorbell. So if somebody else comes in, okay. So let's go on to this one. How do you manage a relationship? This is from Susan Hunter Geese. How do you manage the relationship with your existing gallery? How often do you contact them? Do you recommend contracts, thinking in terms of potential bankruptcy? Well, I told a story, I think last week, about a gallery that I had my work in. At that time, it was my photography. And the gallery disappeared and my work disappeared, and it found me 20, 30 years later. But I was lucky there. I just assumed it was all gone. I have 3 different art galleries. I have different deals with different art galleries, but you want to have an agreement. And the agreement is you want to eliminate well, I thought you said this, or he said, she said. What you want to do is spell out everything. Agreements don't have to be complicated. They just have to spell out everything. The gallery is going to pay the artist X percentage of commission, and they're going to, they're going to pay for that within 10 days or within 30 days. And this is who the check gets written to and who pays for the frames. I just had a situation with a gallery where they put a new frame on something, and it was a $500 frame. And they said, well, we're just going to take that out of your cut. I said, no, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to add it to the price and pay yourself back out of that. So that way, it's not hurting me. It's not hurting them either, but they get their money back that way. Who pays for shipping? Do you pay for shipping to the gallery? What if they ship things back to you? Do they pay for it? Do you pay for it? Every gallery is different. And then, what is the situation if we go insolvent, we go bankrupt, we close our doors? You need to have a document that you can show to a bankruptcy judge that says, hey, I need to get my paintings out. How do I get your personal contact information in the event you disappear so I can contact you and get them out of your storage unit, that kind of a thing. So that's what I would start with, is have an agreement. The second thing is, how do you manage it? And how often do you talk to your gallery? Well, I would start by asking the gallery, what is ideal for them? I have galleries tell me they have artists who call them all the time. Did you sell anything? Did you sell anything? Artists, they sound desperate. And maybe they are desperate. And so they want to know if they sold anything. I think the gallery is a starting point. We'll say to you, well, here's how frequently we want to hear from you by email. Here's how frequently we want to hear from you by phone. Here's what we need from you. And sometimes you could put that in the agreement, but I would do that. And then I like to stay in touch. It doesn't have to be heavy touch, right? I don't call my galleries all the time. Sometimes I just drop them a note or an instant message or a text or something, and I just touch base with them, because what you really want to do is you want to become top of mind. If you're always saying, did you sell? Did you sell? Did you sell? That may or may not be the right thing. But what you want to look for is a way to just be visible. And then, what can I do to help you? Is there anything that is there something that's about to sell? I can help you sell it. I heard from one of my galleries in Portsmouth, Series Gallery in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and over the weekend, and they wanted more information about where the painting was done, because the buyer wanted to know if it was an Adirondack painting and to confirm what farm it was and stuff like that. And so I had to respond to them. I don't know if they sold it or not. I haven't heard. I hope they did. But in the meantime, you want to just have a regular dialogue, be available. I didn't check my text until late that night. And so they didn't get to it while the people were there. Whether or not they came back, I don't know. So those are the kinds of things. The other thing is, I have a friend who he gets to know the salespeople at the gallery, and he doesn't tell them this, but when somebody sells something, he'll call the owner and say, "Hey, who did the sale?" And let's say it was Barb who did the sale. He'll send a nice handwritten note to Barb and say, "Hey, thank you for the sale." And he'll send her a $25 box of chocolates. Well, why does he do that? Well, first off, he wants Barb to know he's grateful. But secondly, if Barb next time has two paintings and the collector could go either direction, they might say, "Oh, well, I'll push them a little bit more towards this one because that way I'll get another box of chocolates so I can gain 10 pounds," right? Okay. So the other thing I like to do, and I have not done this in a long, long time, but it's never a bad idea to put together, when you first go into a gallery, to put together a Zoom call or at least a conference call. Get all the salespeople on the call, and don't spend a lot of time, but tell them your story, because stories sell paintings. And so when they can say, "Well, this is Eric Rhodes, and he did this and he did that, and he jumped this and he climbed that mountain, and he sold this, he's got this person in his collection," that kind of a thing. That's a pretty cool thing. And, I've got a few famous people who have my paintings in their collections. And so that's kind of neat to know that. And so, I might be able to brag about that, or the gallery might be able to. Sometimes they don't let you tell anybody, and that's the case in my case. So I don't do that. But anyway, that will help, and that might help push things a little bit more. Okay, do we have anybody else live? Yes, we do. Okay, who do we have? Well, they're not on camera. Are you audio only, Keith?
Hello?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Okay, Keith, what's your question?
No, I was just streaming on YouTube, and you said go to this site, and so I just checked it out. But if I'm going to ask a question, I'll ask, what do you think about like art contests? Like 10 years ago, I used to look at a lot of art contests online, and I wouldn't enter them. But I'm thinking about entering art contests. Where do you think, comparing art contests versus actually spending money advertising, like what would be the better use of my time and money?
Well, that's a great question, Keith. Thank you for that. I would say that, first off, there's not ever a single answer to any problem. Typically, you gave me an either or question here, and it was either, should I do this or should I do this instead? And I can't answer that question for you because I don't know what your strategy is. I don't know how much money you have to deal with. But I will tell you this about art competitions. They're a very good tool for you. And they're a good tool for two reasons. Number one is they trigger something in your brain. When you suddenly find that you're competing with other artists for a prize, you're going to put your best self out there. So what you're going to do is you're going to try a little harder before you enter it. I entered a painting one time in a very well-known competition, and I was about to enter it, and I looked at the photograph. I thought, it's not good enough yet. And so I went back and painted on it some more, and I painted on it a few more weeks before I entered it because I wanted it to be as good as it could be. But it's by having that holding yourself to a high standard so you can have a chance of winning the competition, it changes your brain. And that puts you into more of a, I'm a professional artist mindset. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, we as artists always need things to talk about. We need stories. If you have galleries, they need stories. And for a gallery, or for yourself, or for your resume, or for your website, to be able to say, you won second place in the January plein air salon competition, or you won the nocturne category, or you won the plein air category, you won the whatever the category is. That gives you something to talk about. It also gives you fodder for social media. And social media, of course, is a great tool, and it can give you fodder for your advertising. So you could, in your ads, you could put winner of the January plein air salon competition, in this category. And everything that you have is in your arsenal to give you bullets, excuse the expression, but to give you bullets to fire to help build credibility. And so the other thing that happens is, in the case of the plein air salon competition, we've had numerous situations where the people who have won the competition nationally, the big $15,000 prize in the cover of Plein Air magazine, they have seen their career transformed. Many times we had people who were not well known. They may have been known regionally, were not known nationally. They became known nationally. All of a sudden, they're getting invited to events. They're getting invited as special guests at gallery shows. They're getting invited to speak. Their art is brought into better and bigger galleries sometimes. And I was with 𝗠𝗵𝗲𝗀𝘆, and we were sitting there talking right after he won the Plein Air Salon Award, and it was announced nationally on our social media. And the phone rang, and it was the head of a very prominent art gallery who said, "Hey, congratulations on winning. We would like to invite you into the gallery." Boom, just like that. So there are a lot of benefits that happen as a result of this. 𝗁𝗶𝗴𝘆, who won the Plein Air Salon this year, may she rest in peace, because she died just a few weeks later. She said to us, and we have a video out there where she's saying this, she said, "I made it one of my life goals to win the Plein Air Salon competition." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because it's branding. You know, if I become the winner of the Plein Air Salon competition, that means that I'm the best in the plein air world that year. And that's branding. That's going to help my brand. It's going to help me. It gives me something more to talk about. It gives me more to push out there." So look for those kind of opportunities. Does that make sense for you, Keith? Hello, hello. Okay. Well,
Sorry,
I think
sorry, I had
oh,
to unmute myself there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any
Yeah,
follow-up
yeah,
questions to that, Keith?
No, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I'm working towards it. I'm gonna start entering things. I'm not really much of a plein air painter, though. I mean, I love plein air, but I think I'm more of a studio painter.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you enter the plein air salon.
Only just, yeah.
We do have studio painting categories in there, but there are lots of competitions out there, and there are opportunities for you to get publicity. Some of them are, including us, are putting images of entries out there and putting names with them and so on, and putting images of winners. So all of these things can benefit you. And yes, it's cheaper, you know, to spend $15 or $30 to enter a competition once or twice every month. It's worthwhile. And you know, you're not going to win every time, but you just keep entering because it's going to help you ultimately. Thank you for your call, Keith. I appreciate it. Okay, next up we have, by the way, let's talk about how to come on live. If you want to come on live, just go to artschool.live/stream and turn your mic on, your camera on, and then hit enter studio. And that way you can be on with us. Okay, so I've got questions that have been submitted. If you want to submit a question, how do we do that? Send them to me, eric@pleinairmagazine.com. Okay. Now, Ryan Henry says, what should we stop doing when we're marketing ourselves? Well, I don't know. I mean, stop your negative thinking. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Negative thinking impacts everything, and you want to make sure that you are being as positive you possibly can be about the outcome. You know, tell yourself, I'm painting the best painting I've ever painted. Don't tell yourself this is garbage, because you've got to watch your mindset. Tell yourself, I am a successful. I am not. I'm gonna be. I am a successful artist selling lots of paintings, and try to do that in your head all the time. That'll make a big difference. In terms of other things you should stop doing that you could do differently, I would say that leverage yourself where you're good, and try to find other people to help you where you're not good. So I'm really good at some things, and I really am terrible at other things. And so, like, I should not be doing my own social media posts. I do, but I'm always making typos and things like that. My wife's always saying, "Eric, you made a typo." And so, there are probably other people who could do better than I could at things like that. I am not very good at graphic design, so I shouldn't be doing graphic design. You know, if you're doing everything yourself, you may have to do that in the beginning because you're not making any money. And I started my company by myself, not making any money. I went 7 years without a paycheck. It was really tough. And, I got a little money in the door here and there that I would use to help me eat, but it was tough. And so you have to figure out what works for you. I like to use other people where I can, because if your time is worth $100 an hour and you can hire somebody to do a menial task for $10 or $20 an hour, then you're better off to get them to do it if you have the ability to do that. Now, that's not always possible, but wherever you possibly can, let go of some things. I told myself 2 years ago, I set a goal for myself not to ever open Photoshop or graphic design program because I just didn't want to be wasting my time doing that stuff when I have experts who work with me or who contract with me who can do a better job for me. So I think that's probably what I would say. Okay, now if you want to come on live, remember artschool.live/stream. Next, we have from Kathy Kahn, who says, I've watched Marketing Mondays since it began. And thank you, by the way. I've just started selling my watercolors this summer. Congratulations. That's a big, bold step. But I found it very helpful. I do wish to focus on pricing conversations that would track with a little bit more reality for me. Most of the people watching or listening are not likely to be selling $15,000 paintings. I think artists want to know how to get a little bit more, $500 for a painting, and what it takes to get going up to $1,500. Well, Kathy, the hardest leap to make as an artist is the reality that sometimes more money for a painting is better than less money. We have this mentality that that low price is always going to sell better than high price. And it's not true. It's been proven to not be true. And sometimes if something is too low of a price, it actually hurts the sale. And so, that's a hard thing to get to when you're an artist. And it was hard for me to get to. We're all insecure human beings. We have a number in our head that we think is an affordable amount of money. And that's based on what we think is affordable to us. So if you're, let's say, Kathy, you're a retired person and you're living on Social Security, well, $500 is a lot of money. $200 is a lot of money. If you're a CEO of a big corporation and you're pulling down millions of dollars a year, $5,000 isn't a lot of money. So, right, there's a different mindset. And so you have to figure out, how do I shift mindset? That's the first thing. But how do you get there? Well, first off, get your self-talk under control. We talked about that a minute ago. I think, well, you're right. Most people aren't going to sell $15,000 paintings, especially out of the box. And the people who sell $15,000 paintings typically didn't do it out of the box. I know a couple who did, but that's very rare. And they had reputations already in other areas. Like one was a major well-known sculptor, and then he started painting. So he started getting big money for his paintings because he got big money for his sculpture. But out of the box, it's tough. So how do you get $500 for a painting? Well, the first thing is to tell yourself, this painting's worth $500, and stick to it and see if it works. And it might not work. And if it doesn't work, then you can ratchet the price down. The other way you can do it is the way that most people start pricing. I read a book on pricing one time, and it said, okay, based on what you think your product is worth, set that price. If that price, if it sells really well, ratchet up the price a little bit more. If it continues to sell well, keep bringing the price up. And once you get to a point where it's not not selling well, bring the price back to last notch where it was selling well. That's probably how you can do it. Excuse me. I think you've got to get used to the idea of where are you going to be? What's the environment going to be? Because environment sets the tone for price. If you're selling a painting at a country club show, you can get a higher price at the country club where you are, where you're around people who are paying $20,000 a year for a membership. You're going to get a higher price to reach them than you are, at the local diner. So you got environment plays a role. So where you put it plays a role, and you've got to figure out where that is. If you're in a better gallery, you're going to get a better price. If you're in a lower end gallery, you're going to get a lower price. But sometimes we have to start there. And sometimes we can't even start there. We just have to try really hard. So, you know, there's all kinds of options for you, art shows and displays and, you know, a lot of different things. I judged an art show over the weekend. There were some expensive paintings in there and there were some $300 paintings in there. I don't know what sold and what didn't sell, but a lot of the paintings were equal in value, and some people didn't price themselves high enough, or maybe they didn't. Maybe the high price didn't sell. Usually the high price sell, and oftentimes they sell first. So anyway, I'm not so sure if that helps, but I think starting low and then increase gradually. The other thing is belief systems have a big part of this role, right? Your belief systems and also the gallery belief systems if you have a gallery. So if you have a gallery and you say, listen, I want to ratchet up my prices another $1,000, and they say, I don't think I can sell them for another $1,000, you have to either listen to them and say, well, how much can I increase it? And they'll say, well, maybe a couple $100. So you increase it a couple $100. Or you go find a gallery that's going to say, you know, I think I could sell these. Now, I have an artist friend that I advised, and this artist went to her gallery and said, I need $1,000 more per painting. And they said, can't get it. So she called another gallery. They said, we'd be glad to have you. And she said, this is the price. And they said, oh, well, that's no problem. We can sell that all day long. So it's the mindset of the gallery. It's also the mindset of the gallery buyers, right? Some galleries have better buyers than others. All right. Let's see. We have Diane. Diane, come on board. Diane, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Diane.
I'm here.
Where
Hi,
are
Ed.
you? Where are you
I have a
calling
question
from? We have her
from
on video. We don't
Pennsylvania.
need that slide. There we go. What's your question, Diane?
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Photography. I mean, I've always been into art and photography, and I'm just wondering how to price photographs for, you know, different groups, and what's a good industry price that people can get for them. I don't want to overprice. I don't want to underprice. I don't want to work for nothing, basically.
By the way, you should be selling your horse paintings. They're lovely. Are those
Thank
watercolor?
you. Thank you. Anybody wants one, I paint it for them.
All right.
That's my specialty: horses and dogs.
Horses and dogs. Well, what's your website so people can visit it?
Diane'sHorses.com.
Diane'sHorses.com. That's a really great example of a good website.
Yeah. And if they want
Okay.
to contact me, they can go through Facebook, and that's Diane 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃, 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃.
Well, that's difficult. I think
That's
I go
difficult.
to Diane's Horses.
Diane'sHorses.com. And I'd also like to have some more input about websites, because the website I have is not actually functioning for people to contact me very easily. So I'd really like to change that.
Okay, well, I let's talk about that first, because that's the most recent question. I'm not as big a fan of websites as I was a year or two ago, and that's because of Facebook and Instagram. And sometimes all you need is an Instagram page, and then you can do a link to bio and put things in there. But the reason you typically don't put your email address visible on a website is because there are these robots that just scan for email addresses so they can spam people, and then you're going to end up with a lot of spam. So most artists have a contact me box, and you can put a telephone number. You could even put a telephone number that says text me if you wanted to do that. That's less likely to get scrubbed, but maybe it will. And then you can also, of course, have the contact me box. The problem with contact me boxes is I don't know if it ever gets to them. You know, I think some artists don't update their websites. They change their email addresses. I've reached out to people by contact me boxes. I did one the other day, and I haven't heard from the artist yet. And so I think you've got to be timely in those kinds of things and make sure you're checking them on a regular basis. LinkedIn is also a good thing. You know, you can put your information on LinkedIn and have somebody contact you inside of LinkedIn. And I meet people that way all the time. Sometimes people I don't want to meet, but other times people I meet. So website technology is pretty important. Make sure you've got a website provider, the other a good one. And the other thing I would say is that you know, I went to a website the other day. We were considering an artist for one of our online events. I don't remember which one. And we went to the artist's website, and it was it still had the button that said like 19, you know, early websites. I don't even remember what year it was, but it said enter, you know, and then you press enter, and it looked like it was a 30-year-old website. Probably was at least that. And maybe, I don't know how long websites have been around anymore, but it just, it was not up to date. It didn't have, you know, the paintings that were all on there were old. You want to make sure that it's fresh and current, and it's changed frequently for two reasons. First off, Google and the other search engines are constantly searching for updates. And so if you're not updating your website on a regular basis, they're not going to send traffic to you if they happen to find somebody who has a keyword that fits your website. The other thing is keywords, making sure that you have keywords that are the kind of things people are searching for when it comes to horses. For instance, you know, I would have keywords in your website is, you know, paintings of horses would be a keyword, so that if somebody searches paintings of horses, you're more likely to show up in that. So make sure it's current. And then of course, you know, how to contact me. And you know, we have on our front page on one of our websites, we have a telephone number, very visible. We want people to be able to, and we have a contact us right there, so that, you know, people don't have to dig. You don't want to make people hunt, because they won't go to the trouble. Now, your other question was about selling photography. I don't know if you heard the answer that I just gave to another person who was about selling and setting prices. The same thing is going to hold true for selling photography. It's about environment. I have a neighbor who is a world famous photographer, world famous. You know, I can't mention names, but I mean, major movie stars, major magazines, world famous, been around for a long time. And you know, his painting or his prints, his photography probably sell for big money, if you can even buy them, I'm guessing. I'm sure that, you know, people are paying him $50,000 a day for a photo shoot. And so environment is everything, right? So, you know, there are galleries in New York City that sell 20 and 30 and 40 and 50,000, probably $500,000 prints. I went into a photography gallery in Las Vegas, and they had a $2 million print, and they had just sold one, and they were spectacular. Now, I didn't think they were worth $2 million to me, but somebody who knew the artist and knew how good they were might do that. So that, you know, it was in a high-end neighborhood, and there was surrounded by high-end galleries in Las Vegas. And, you know, it was dealing with high rollers at, you know, at a major hotel. And so environment makes a big difference. If you're selling art in the local artist guild, photography in the local artist guild, you know, the prices are going to have to be commensurate with what's in there. And there's a local artist guild here, and there's a very good artist who does photography in there. And the prices are kind of in the range of all the other stuff. You know, you probably have to price according to where you're showing. Does that make sense? Is that a yes?
How about a website? Yes, it's a yes. It does make sense, and I did hear your response to the other person earlier. So one of the things, like you just mentioned it, selling to higher class and also selling locally, you don't want to overprice your local, but you want to get your money from the people who really want to have something that's classy. And well, I really would like to get a different host on my website so I can update it and keep it fresh. So
okay.
If you have suggestions.
No, I don't make any recommendations on products. I don't have suggestions, but there are people out there who do it just for artists, and I would check into those. Just Google websites for artists, and you'll find them. And there's some who do a very good job. I think, Diane, one thing I want to caution you on is I don't think typically an artist should have two different prices. I don't think an artist should have local prices and national prices, for instance, because art is art. And if you're selling an 8x10 for $200 in the local gallery, and you're selling an 8x10 for $2,000 in your national gallery, then people are going to Google and they're going to find you and they're going to see that. And it's just not going to make sense. You want your pricing to be consistent across all the galleries. In terms of prestige, you have to find what is prestigious in your mind and see if you can figure out a way to get in there. In my book, I talk about how to get into galleries. Prestige is different in every community. Every town has a prestigious area, typically. The high rent district or the expensive homes. Every community kind of has that, and then so you got to figure out how to tap that. Around here, where I am at the moment, there's some high-end hotels. And, these there's one high-end hotel that gets $2,500 a night. So you want to be in their gift shop, because somebody's spending $2,500 for a night at a hotel where the most of us are spending, $150 or $200, then, they're not going to think twice about spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for a beautiful print. Or painting or something like that. So again, environment matters. Diane, I hope that's been helpful. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on. And we have a couple more questions, and then we'll move on. If you guys want to go live, just go to go to artschool.live/stream, and then follow the instructions. Amanda Murphy Griffey says, how do you find your ideal client collector audience for your paintings? Well, marketing, one of the premises of marketing is that you want to figure out who your audience is, and then you want to chase your audience, right? So if you figure out that the people who buy your paintings are all of a certain age group and a certain socioeconomic, maybe they make a certain amount of money, maybe you find there are patterns that they all discovered you through, a certain place, then you're going to look for those kinds of places. And so it's hard to do research on that when you haven't sold any paintings, because you have to have something you can look at. So what I've done in the past is I don't do this anymore, and it's just because I don't have time. But when my gallery would call me whenever they sold a painting and give me the name of the person who bought the painting, and they knew I would not violate my relationship and would not try to sell something separately without the gallery being involved. And so I would call these people, and I just call and say, hey, I just want to say thank you for buying my painting. And then I'll ask them some questions like, what was it that appealed to you? And just kind of try to find out what they liked. And then I usually, start a small talk conversation about, well, tell me a little bit about yourselves. Where do you guys live? And, just try to find out some patterns, right? And then if I find patterns, then I can try and reinforce those patterns. Now, I'm not an artist who's going to say, I sell a lot of really beautiful little red barns, and so I'm going to paint more little red barns. I'm going to paint what I love to do. So I'm not looking for clues in terms of what's going to sell, but I can look for clues in terms of what kind of brushwork is selling. Like if I have paintings that, that are going through, that are flying off the walls of the gallery, and they all have my thick brushwork on them, then I'll do more thick brushwork, but I'm still going to follow my own vision and dream on what I'm going to paint. So I think you want to look for patterns, and patterns is where you find those answers. Next question comes from Kelly Borsheim. How do you deal with burnout, especially social media and marketing? Yeah. Well, where do I begin? Burnout is tough to deal with. Burnout is probably a form of depression. I get burned out from social media. And so typically I will take a week every summer. I need to do that this summer, where I just tell myself I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to post on social media. I have some people who post some things for me, so they might do it, but where I'm just not going to check it, because, sometimes I end up sitting up till midnight, scrolling through, doom scrolling, as they say. And, it just gets to burnout focus. So I set a goal for myself of certain places I don't pick up my phone and look. Like if I'm at dinner, by myself or with someone else, I don't ever look at my phone. I just say to myself, I'm going to enjoy my dinner. So I think you have to treat yourself to moments, special moments. I think vacations are very important. And even if you don't have the money to take a vacation, try to get away. Take a drive, get yourself away, take a walk in the woods, do something to get away. I like to take walks and hikes and climb to the top of the mountain and things like that because it's good for my brain. The other thing that I think is really important, Kelly, is what I call thinking time. Thinking time. We are all reactionary beings, and we tend to be just grabbing at the easiest answers to solve our problems. When if you stop and think, it'll make a big difference. I sat down for an hour this morning and I had a tablet of paper in front of me, and I just started writing myself questions. How do I solve this problem? How do I solve that problem? And then I start telling myself, okay, how can I solve that? What are 10 ways I can do it? What are 10 more ways I can do it? Because the first 5 you come up with are the easy ones. It's the next 10, the next 20, the next 50 that are tougher. And when you sit and think about things, it gives you clarity, and clarity will help with burnout. And sometimes it's just a matter of needing some sleep. And sometimes it's a matter of getting away. If you're burned out on paintings, get away from it for a while. Or if you're burned out on oil paintings, try pastel. If you're burned out on watercolor paintings, try pastel. Whatever it is, the idea is get yourself into a different environment. That can make a pretty big difference. Okay, I don't think we have any more call-ins. If you want to call in, you can still do it. Here's one last question for you. 𝗠𝗵𝗲𝗀𝘶𝗃 is asking, can you address some mailing list to-do and don'ts issues? All right, we'll try. Rather than thinking of it as a mailing list, Doug, think of it as a prospect list, because the way you look at it matters. And why I say that is because if your goal is just to get people on your mailing list, everybody you meet, you're going to give them your card and say, join my mailing list, or come to my mailing list, or come, yum, 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 come, and everybody. You're just going to take anybody and everybody. But the problem is, if you're taking anybody and everybody, and they're not people that are prospects, you're just gonna be talking to an empty room, right? People who don't care. People don't want to buy paintings. So if you are at an art show and you have people who are truly in love with your work, but even if they don't buy anything, you say, hey, I'd love to send you my newsletter and updates of when I'm doing new things. If you're interested, let me know and I'll put you on there. And they say they're interested. Say, pull out your phone, scan this code right now. You just put your email in there. And then you want to have what's called a welcoming sequence. So somebody puts their email in, you want to, who I am, what I do, what to expect, right? So, I am 𝗠𝗵𝗲𝗀𝘶𝗃. I'm an artist. I focus on painting waterfalls, and I try to be the best waterfall painter in the entire state of Pennsylvania. And by the way, I don't send a lot of emails, but I send out one monthly newsletter and I send out one monthly update. All right, now they know what to expect. Okay. So the other thing, Doug, is get to know spam laws. You got to read them. If you're going to do email marketing, get to know spam laws. And a mail list really is a mail list. So you want an address, you want a telephone number for texting, a cell phone number for texting, and you want to be very careful about that. And you want to have, so physical address, texting number, maybe a phone number of an office or something, and an email address, because you're going to use this prospect list and prospect in different ways. Maybe one day you're going to send a postcard. Maybe you're going to send out something like a catalog at Christmas, and you're only going to send something once a year. But if you don't have their mail address, that's not going to help. Now, you might have to have incentive, like, put your email address in. And then, by the way, if you want to put in your home mailing address, I will instantly mail you a free print. Now you have a free print going to them, and it's got your name all over it, your website all over it. And they remember you. And you've got to look for ways to reinforce things. Not everybody buys at the moment. And I have gone to art shows and regretted not buying something. And sometimes I picked up a postcard from the artist and I look at it in my pocket and I go, is that the artist or not? And then I end up not contacting them. But if you have a way to remember them, so, if you're at an art show, please remember me, remember this painting. Why don't you let me take your picture standing in front of the painting, and so you can remember it. And then I'll text it to you with my phone number. All right. So what does that do? First off, mentally, they're standing in front of the painting. So mentally, it's helping them say to themselves, I already own this. I can see this hanging in my house. And that way, and then you're going to text it to them. Now it's not a photo of you, it's a photo of them with the painting. And that's a pretty cool thing. So invite people into your list, but don't give your, don't put your list for everybody. Now, some artists might want to have 2 mailing lists, right? One for artists and one for collectors or buyers, right? So if somebody's interested in your workshops, but they're not ever going to buy a painting, you don't want to be sending collectors information on your workshops. Well, maybe you do. I mean, that's changing. A lot of collectors are doing it. So think about that. By the way, do's and don'ts: don't sell your list. Don't spam your list. Don't use your list for things other than what they signed up for. All right. Okay. I think that's it for today. I just want to remind you guys that we're here every Monday. We have a free gift for you. It's our free video, 97 Incredible Art Secrets from the World's Finest Artists. And that can be found at 97artsecrets.com/free. All right. A reminder that Fall Color Week is coming up in late September, and I am getting excited about it. As a matter of fact, I just ordered some paint because I'm going to be in California for about 2 weeks. I'm going to go from Fall Color Week, and then I'm going to go visit some friends and do some business. And I'm going to go and judge be one of the 3 judges for the Laguna plein air event. And then I'm going to go film a video, and I got a bunch of other stuff to do in California, and I'm going to paint. So I just ordered some paint. So I'm getting ready, ordering my stuff, my panels, getting ready to go. But Fall Color Week is my fall retreat. This is the first time it's been on the West Coast of California. We're going to do it in Monterey and Carmel. We're staying literally right on the ocean. And even though it's sold out, people have been asking, can I get in? And so we went to the facility and they said, well, we just had 10 more rooms open up because we had something else cancel. So we were able to get 10 more rooms, which means we're going to make it 110 people instead of 100 people. And which is about our limit ever. And already 5 of those 10 rooms are sold. And we just found out today we've got a little bit more time to get those rooms sold, but not much more. So if you want to get one of those 5 last rooms, and by the way, if you want to double up in a room with somebody, you can do that too. So that's at Fall Color Week. You just roll out of bed every day and you paint, we feed you, we put you up, we have a lot of fun. We do music and portraits at night. That's a good time. fallcolorweek.com. Pastel Live is coming up in September. It's the world's leading pastel online event for artists, teaching for 3 days. Plus there's a 4th Essentials Day coming up, and some of the world's leading artists teaching on that. It's all online, so you don't have to travel, and it's at pastellive.com. Speaking of pastel, we have a pastel party. Woohoo, party! Speaking of pastel party meeting this Saturday, August 24th at 12 noon Eastern Time, featuring artist Michelle Ashby and Richard Suckling, and it's going to be hosted by our pastel goddess, Carrie Stober. And you can register at streamlineartevents.com/party. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. Don't miss us. Mondays, we have marketing. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have teaching. Fridays, we do Feedback Fridays, where we give you feedback on your paintings. So make sure to subscribe to this channel. Just do it. Just do it right now. Go to YouTube, look up Art School Live. If you're watching on YouTube, you don't even have to go there. Just hit the subscribe button. Go to Art School Live, hit the subscribe button. The little bell will help you get notified when we go live. All right. Subscribe. It helps us. And please give me a follow at Eric Rhodes on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, on everything. Okay. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.